Hey everyone, what's up and welcome to a new AFK Journey video. This time I will make a tier list video, and to be very exact, it's a PvE tier list, and to be more specific, I will tell you which characters are in my opinion the best to make map progression, so progression through the story. Because there are a lot of PvE modes, but we will focus on which characters are probably the best to progress in the PvE in the story mode. So first we have Igor. Igor can be used as a sub-tank in early game. He can tank moderate amount of damage, turns into an assassin in crucial moments, could sweep enemies and work wonders. So he is clearly in S tier. Now we come to Nero. Sadly, Nero lacks all the elements required for map progression, so he's kinda useless. So this is our first C tier hero. Next on the list we have Salazar. Salazar, as a melee unit, he lacks self-protection mechanism. In modes or map progression where enemies levels are higher than ours, he's too vulnerable. So because of that we put him in C tier list. So next on the list is Sylvina. At the start of the match she bursts, but not suitable for long fights against enemies, and because of that it's again a C tier hero. Next on the list we have Viperian. His AoE capabilities makes him suitable against casual mobs, but he only has debuff abilities and no hard CC. Can be used as sub DPS to make up the numbers, so he is kinda usable. We will put him in B tier. Next on the list is Thoran. Thoran's position in map progression is more of a bruiser instead of a tank. He can tank and deal good damage. It will greatly impact your map progression, depends on whether you pulled him or not. But if you pull him, well, congrats, he's clearly an S tier hero. Next we have Carolina. The duration of CC from her ultimate are long, but the time to get it ready is longer than that, but this is common shortcoming for all mages. There's no other obvious weak point except that. But still, yeah, she's not very strong. It will be a B tier hero. Next on the list is Cisia. Guaranteed in current version first 10 pull, mid pace in map progression due to her ultimate duration. She has some CC and does good damage, so her performance in map progression is pretty good. And because of that we put her in A tier. Next on the list we have Arden, and to be honest, just forget about him, he also belongs in the C tier list. I will try to make this as short as possible, because I know it can be kind of boring if you watch the tier list and so on, and mostly you just want to get to the point. Okay, which heroes should I pick for PvE or PvP, or which ones should I just ignore? So we'll try to rush it a little bit. And by the way, I made this tier list with other people, so thanks a lot for all the people who helped me creating this video. I really appreciate it. Next we have Brion. To be honest, Brion is also not really good. Pretty bad DPS, so we will put him in C tier. Damien the same, just on the C tier. Next we have Aaron. Aaron, being vulnerable and a melee unit, isn't great for map progression. He's not available to be exchanged in store, so usually he won't be at highest ascension levels. So because of that it's really not recommended, and again C tier. And I can already clearly see where this is going. So C tier is really dominant right now, but hey, that's why we have those lists, to see, okay, how many heroes are really playable. Well, they are all playable, but of course there are some that are clearly better than others. Next on the list we have Granny Dawny. Granny Dawny, as a tank she's strong enough. The problem is you won't have access to wishlist early game before spending enough pulls, and her priority in store is low as well. So just because of that we put her in B tier. Next on the list is Hewin, and you clearly need a healer through the game, through the story mode and so on. So she's very playable, very good, and because of that we will put her in A tier. So definitely a hero I would recommend. Next we have Khafra. Map progression requires a tank that are able to tank damage for allies, which Khafra isn't good at. So because of that, it's clearly also on the C tier list. Next we have Laika. Since she doesn't excel in any way, she doesn't have much use when there is a big power gap between you and the enemies, and because of that she goes to the C tier. Next we have Parisa. Viable AoE capabilities. In theory she's usable in map progression, but in early game she lacks a priority for occurrence for ascension. So because of that, you guessed it, C tier. Jesus, it's kind of fun to be honest. Let's come to Atalanta. There are two problems for non-utility carry DPS units. The first problem is they're hard to come by or have low priority to exchange in store. Second, the elites in the same faction will be needing the Accords more than they did. And both problems are applicable to Atalanta, which is the same as KCD. So, C tier. And you already guessed it, KCD immediately to the C tier. Next we have Faye. Theoretically she's only viable in early game, but we have Rowan, which surpasses her by a lot. So that means C tier. Now we have Corrin. Pretty balanced performance in map progression, able to tank and does good damage at the same time, but he's most sub DPS or sub tank. Pair him with other light bearer for faction bonus and then he's pretty good. So he's not amazing, but he's on the B tier. Definitely not C tier, he's B tier. Lucius, come to C. No, joking, he's not a C tier hero. So he's a tank for early game. He can be ascended to Epic Plus just with soul sigils, but not recommended for further investment. Theoretically, he's viable enough at level 240 for completing map progression. So he's pretty good, A tier. Very, very solid one. Myrael, also C tier. As I said, some heroes will just straight go to C tier and no further explanation needed. Mary Lee. Her advantages are being viable since the beginning until late game. Elites are easy to come by, can be paired with Lucius and Rowan in early game for the faction bonus and used in Dream Realms during the late game. So she's very, very good, and because of that, it's an A tier hero. And now we have Rowan. What do you think? Where does Rowan belongs to? In which tier? So, usable at Epic, exchangeable in store and 7-day chest. He has a strong initiative due to being able to manually activate his ultimate in map progression. Rowan happens to be a support and can provide haste buff. And because of that, he belongs in the S tier section. And now let's come to Timisia. Same issue sadly as KCD and Atalanta, so she's not available to be exchanged, so it's just better to skip her honestly, so immediately C tier. So here we have Vela. She's not crazy good, but very free to play friendly hero again, and because of that we will put her in B tier, but she's not crazy good overall. But yeah, viable, why not? Yeah, now we have Valen. Sadly, even though he's like the main character of the game, he's bad in every single aspect of it. PvE, PvP, whatever, so we will just put him in C tier for real. Don't waste your resources on him. He's sadly a very bad hero. But who knows, maybe he will get a buff in the future. Now we have Antandra. So she's very tanky, you'll only need a few of her copies and no acorns. There's a chance to add her into wishlist. All this makes Antandra a very solid tank for early game progression, and because of that she belongs in A tier. Now we have Brutus. So no matter what happens, Brutus can still stand in field for 6 seconds. He has some value in fights that has quite big level deficit or power gap, and because of that, yeah, now let's put him in B tier. In B tier. He's, yeah, I mean, early game, sure. Sadly, Kruger cannot really tank a lot of melee damage, and yeah, I would clearly not use him. C tier. Lumont also come here to C tier. Yeah, not even worth it to talk about it. So next we have Odie, and Odie is kinda overpowered, to be honest. He's a marksman and an assassin at the same time. Like, he's very good and can easily deal with the enemy backline. So yeah, he's an S tier hero. So with Riz, we don't have a ton of game experience yet, and it is very unclear. He can be good, but it's just I cannot give an accurate rating to him yet. But he's playable, that is for sure, but I cannot give an accurate rating, so because of that he will come to B tier. But this is an exception, okay? Don't take this too serious. Next on the list is Satrena. Being a close range mage and vulnerable makes her not suitable for map progression. Dude, that's, yeah. It's not that nice, it just dies too easily, and because of that, C tier. Next on the list we have Seth, and Seth is sadly, wow, pretty bad in the story progression, story mode, so we'll put him in C tier. I want to honestly say that meaning that they are bad in story mode doesn't mean that they are bad in the other PvE modes, okay? I wanted to be very clear with this, because they might be pretty bad here, but then in Dream Realms or so, they are usable, okay? We are just talking about story progression, about map progression. Same with Shakir, also C tier. I mean, he's good or decent in other things. In Arena, for example, he's fine, he's better, but in story mode, no, it's a C tier. Next on the list, we have Smokey and Murky. So he's very useful in map progression, story progression, especially for new players that are used to auto battles, and he's really pretty solid. So because of that, it's another S tier. Already 5 S tier heroes. I mean, it's not that bad. Next on the list we have Burial. He requires a high investment to perform well, and players that are capable of doing so most likely won't have problems in story progression anyway. So because of that, he belongs in C tier. Dianel, basically the same as Burial, so C tier. Rainier is actually pretty solid, pretty good, so he immediately belongs to A tier. Not S tier yet, but A tier, yeah, for sure, very nice one. And last on the list, Scarlita. Sadly, she has the same problem as Burial, and because of that, it's C tier. And we are done! This is our PvE story mode map progression list. Yeah, we have some S tier heroes, we have some A tier heroes, and then B tier a ton of C tier heroes. So S tier, definitely characters, heroes you should go for if you have the possibility. A tier also still very solid, and from then on it's downhill. But keep in mind that just because a character is C tier doesn't mean that he's bad in PvP or so, because you can be C tier in PvE but S tier in PvP. Those are just two different things, and I will maybe also do a PvP list in the near future. I don't know if you liked it or not, but yeah, I try my best to help all the new players out that will start to play the game very soon. Once again, thanks to all the people that helped me to create this tier list video, because otherwise I would not be able to do it. There are just people that have way more experience in AFK Journey than I have, and I'm very grateful for that. So thank you a lot. And on the last note, look in the comments down below or in the description. There is a code that you can use in-game to get some extra free rewards. Thanks to the AFK Journey team for that. And yeah, I would say this is it. Thanks for watching. Feel free to leave a like if you think this video helped you. Subscribe if you want to see more AFK Journey videos. And then I would say, see you soon in your AFK journey. Bye bye.